The void shimmered, not with the cold indifference of true space, but with the controlled, pulsating energy of a vast, live-fire exercises. Spanning across sectors and overseen from the colossal confines of the Grand Crucible orbital platform, the Galactic combined military exercise was a spectacle of unparalleled scale and strategic depth. Fleets of warships executed intricate dance routines, their energy signatures flaring like distant supernovas. Ground forces, comprising the elite of 100 star-faring civilizations, maneuvered across the rugged terrain of Xylos Prime, their advanced combat suits glowing faintly against the harsh desert landscape. The air, thick with the hum of cloaked generators and the faint, almost imperceptible thrum of quantum processors, vibrated with the collective tension of billions of credits and countless hours of training. This wasn't merely a test. It was a declaration of martial prowess, a grand display of interspecies military might. Among the myriad scenarios designed to push the boundaries of tactics and technology, one particular challenge stood out for its brutal simplicity and unforgiving nature: the bunker buster exercise. Deep within a craggy, desolate canyon on the desert world of Xylos Prime, formidable defensive bunkers dominated the landscape. Its walls, rendered from hyperdense, ablative reinforced alloy plating, shimmered with integrated energy fields. Automated turrets, their multispectral optics scanning the horizon, were recessed into armoured emplacements, while concealed weapons lay dormant, awaiting the slightest provocation. The objective was stark. On-foot soldiers, unassisted by heavy vehicles or orbital bombardment, were to neutralize this fortified bastion using only the equipment they could physically carry into the field. It was a test of infantry ingenuity, resilience, and the raw effectiveness of personal armaments against a seemingly impenetrable fortress. The initial waves of assault were a testament to the diverse philosophies of galactic warfare. The Cathar hegemony, a race of hulking, chitinous beings renowned for their raw power, launched a thunderous frontal assault. Their advance was a symphony of percussive energy blasts and the guttural roars of their lead warrior, Commander Vrax. Equipped with wrist-mounted plasma cannons and shoulder-mounted disruptor coils, Cathar shock troopers, like the formidable Xylos, attempted to brute force their way through the bunker's layered defences. Their heavy armour absorbed torrents of simulated laser fire, but the automated turrets, precise and relentless, eventually whittled down their numbers. Despite heavy simulated losses, they managed to destroy the bunker after a grueling 47 minutes. Following them, the lithe and ethereal Sylvani Ascendancy demonstrated their mastery of stealth and psionic manipulation. Operative Lyra, her bioluminescent skin shimmering faintly, led a team of Sylvani scouts, including the agile Phelan, through the canyon's shadowed crevices. They employed advanced optical camouflage and silent energy projectors, attempting to bypass the outer defences and infiltrate the bunker's ventilation systems. Their approach was elegant, almost ghost-like, but the bunker's internal sensors, designed to detect even the faintest thermal fluctuations, eventually pinpointed their positions. A flurry of defensive countermeasures erupted, forcing the Sylvani to engage in a desperate close-quarters skirmish. Though suffering several critical simulated losses, they successfully neutralized the bunker after 38 minutes. The Xylosian technocracy, masters of drone warfare and directed energy, then deployed their intricate network of automated units. Engineer K-Law, a multi-limbed being with an array of diagnostic tools integrated into his carapace, oversaw the deployment of swarms of agile attack drones. Commander and Drone Master Tevar directed precision energy beams, attempting to overload the bunker's shield generators from a distance. Their strategy was one of overwhelming technological superiority, a relentless barrage of focused energy. The bunker's defences, however, were designed to withstand such assaults, prioritizing energy dissipation and rapid target acquisition. Even while incurring unavoidable simulated casualties from the bunker's unyielding counterfire, the Xylosian drones inflicted considerable damage to the outer layers and successfully neutralized the bunker after 30 minutes, achieving the current fastest time. Beyond these initial attempts, numerous other alien contingents, from the disciplined Vorgon phalanx with their coordinated shield walls to the volatile Xylix swarm employing biological corrosives, also engaged the bunker. Each eventually achieved their objective of destruction, but none came close to the Xylosians' 30-minute feat. Some engagements dragged on for 45 minutes, others stretched past an hour, all incurring their own heavy tolls in simulated personnel and resources. The consensus among the observing species was clear. This bunker was a formidable challenge, requiring a perfect blend of power, precision, and perhaps a touch of madness. Then came the humans. Not a squad, not a platoon, but two solitary figures. They emerged from the dust-shrouded horizon, their standard-issue combat fatigues a stark contrast to the gleaming armor and exotic weaponry of the alien forces. One, a burly individual with a quiet intensity in his eyes, Private Alex Maverick Vance, carried what appeared to be the barrel and stock of a weapon, wrapped in heavy canvas. The other, leaner and more agile, Corporal Ben Shadow Carter, had the receiver, various components and spotting gears strapped securely to his back. It was unmistakably the disassembled components of an anti-materiel rifle, a weapon from a bygone era, starkly mechanical and a striking contrast to the advanced energy weapons displayed by the other species, yet still carried by these humans. No exosuits, no drone backpacks, just two men and a rifle in pieces against a bunker that had shrugged off the might of the galaxy's finest. As they surveyed the formidable bunker, they began the methodical process of assembling their weapon at a safe distance of 500 meters from the bunker defenses. A ripple of murmurs. Are they a scouting team? Where's the rest of their squad? What is that thing? That relic belongs in a museum, not a battlefield. Then outright cackles spread through the observation decks where the various alien commanders and strategists watched the live feeds. The image of the two humans and their archaic weapon was projected onto the main holoscreen, dwarfed by the imposing bunker. "Is this some form of comedic relief?" scoffed Commander Xylos of the Cathar hegemony, his multi-jointed mandibles clicking in amusement. "They bring a projectile launcher? What are they going to do with that antique? Bang on the door until they surrender?" His booming voice, amplified by the comms, echoed across the already sneering deck. A chorus of laughter erupted, a cacophony of hisses, chirps, and guttural rumblings. "Primitive!" someone else sneered, the word dripping with condescension. "It took us at least half an hour, with our most advanced disruptors and plasma lances. Maybe if they shoot it every day for 50 years, they'll dent it." Commander Tivar of the Xylosian technocracy, his optical sensors narrowing in disdain, projected his thoughts directly into the shared neural network of the observers. "It is clear," his synthesized voice resonated with an almost palpable arrogance, "that the humans understood this exercise was beyond their capabilities. Look how far they are from the target, attempting to hide from the bunker's defenses. It is obvious this is merely a formality. To avoid utter humiliation, they have sent a merely symbolic team, a gesture of participation rather than genuine competition. A shame, truly, to witness such an admission of inadequacy." More laughter, sharper and more derisive than before, filled the observation chamber. The very notion of two humans with such an antiquated tool attempting what entire specialized platoons had struggled with was, to them, an absurd joke. Unperturbed by the alien jeers, Private Vance and Corporal Carter worked with practiced efficiency. Corporal Carter, the spotter, dropped to one knee, his optical visor extending with a soft whir, linking directly to the advanced targeting systems integrated into the rifle's future-proofed scope. His gaze, sharp and unwavering, locked onto the bunker's most vulnerable point, calculating windage, atmospheric density, and the minuscule vibrations of the simulated ground. Windage, 3.2 right. Elevation, 0.05 up. Target acquired primary viewport housing 500 meters. His voice, calm and precise, cut through the comms. Beside him, Private Vance. The shooter had already settled into a prone position, the massive anti-materiel rifle now fully assembled, its cold, heavy steel a stark contrast to the sleek, glowing composites of alien weaponry. He adjusted the scope with minute, almost imperceptible movements, his fingers dancing over the familiar knurled dials. His breath hitched, held, as he found the perfect sight picture. The very air around them seemed to thicken with anticipation. Then the world shattered. A thunderous, concussive boom ripped through the simulated canyon, a raw, primal sound that echoed off the rock faces and vibrated through the very ground. Dust, fine and red, erupted around the rifle like a miniature explosion, momentarily obscuring Vance and Carter in a swirling cloud before settling back into the desert air. It was not the high-pitched whine of a plasma discharge, but the deep, guttural roar of kinetic force unleashed. The sheer volume of it momentarily overwhelmed the alien comms, causing several observers to flinch, their delicate audio receptors overloaded. On the main holoscreen, the laughter in the observation deck died, abruptly, as if a switch had been flicked. Every alien eye, every optical sensor, every psionic focus snapped to the image of the bunker. A single, impossibly fast slug, a design whose core principles remained unchanged for millennia, but whose material composition and aerodynamic properties had undergone countless modifications to accommodate future requirements, tore through the air. It was a blur, a whisper of death, a physical projectile defying the energy shields and ablative armor that had repelled countless advanced attacks. There was a blinding flash and a shower of superheated sparks, followed by a sickening, metallic thunk that resonated even through the simulated environment. The bunker's outer plating, designed to withstand orbital bombardment, buckled. A spiderweb of cracks, impossibly deep, spread from the point of impact. The integrated energy fields flickered, then died, collapsing inward as the slug, with an almost contemptuous ease, punched through the reinforced alloy and vanished into the bunker's core. Inside, a storm of superheated shrapnel erupted, tearing through the simulated targets and critical systems, ensuring complete neutralization. Less than 12 seconds had elapsed from the moment Corporal Carter began his spotting calculations to the thunderous report of Vance's rifle. If one included the meticulous, almost ritualistic assembly of the rifle, the total time from the human's arrival to the bunker's neutralization was a mere 2 minutes. Private Vance, still prone, exhaled slowly and muttered just loud enough to carry across the comms, "Wait, were we supposed to take more than a few seconds?" Corporal Carter stood, brushing dust from his knee, visor still glowing faintly as he scanned the fading heat signature on the ruined bunker. "Should we slow it down next time?" he said dryly. "You know, take the full 30 minutes?" A stunned, absolute silence descended upon the observation decks as the holoscreen blared in flashing crimson. Bunker neutralized. The cacophony of alien laughter was replaced by an almost deafening quiet, broken only by the faint hum of the holoscreens. Commander Xylus's mandibles hung slack. Operative Lyra's bioluminescent skin paled. Engineer Kalor's multi-limbs froze mid-gesture. Their advanced sensors, which had meticulously tracked every energy signature, every shield fluctuation, every drone movement, now registered a single, undeniable fact. The bunker was breached. Neutralized. In 12 seconds. Commander Tivar of the Xylosian technocracy's multi-limbs, which moments before had been gesturing with arrogant dismissal, now froze, his optical sensors flickering wildly as if struggling to process the impossible data. The crushing weight of his earlier mockery, of the Xylosian technocracy's pride in their fastest time, now felt like a physical blow. What had taken their combined might, their cutting-edge technology, and their most elite forces at least half an hour, a grueling, casualty-ridden half an hour, these two humans, with their relic weapon, had accomplished in the blink of an eye. The impossible had been achieved, by the last ones anyone expected. The shock was a physical blow, a collective gasp of disbelief that reverberated through the entire Grand Crucible. Their arrogance, moments before so palpable, now felt like a crushing weight, replaced by a dawning, terrifying realization of what they had just witnessed. The stunned silence in the observation decks was abruptly shattered, not by a new round of simulated combat, but by a bellow, crimson alert that flashed across every screen. "Unauthorized intrusion detected. Real-world threat. Terrorist incursion. Code Black." The simulated environment of the Grand Crucible vanished, replaced by raw, unfiltered telemetry and grainy, real-time visuals from Xylos Prime. Panic, cold and sharp, began to spread. A notorious terrorist cell, the Crimson Scythe, had chosen this precise moment for a devastating strike. Their intelligence had been impeccable. The galaxy's elite ground forces, deployed for the Galactic combined military exercise on Xylos Prime, were on foot, stripped of their heavy armor, air support, and most formidable weaponry. It was a perfect, horrifying opportunity to deliver a message of terror, to demonstrate their reach and ruthlessness by slaughtering hundreds of the galaxy's finest. From the dust-choked skies of Xylos Prime, a flight of 6 heavy gunships descended, their dark, angular forms bristling with plasma cannons, missile pods, and kinetic railguns. These were not simulated threats. They were real, hardened war machines designed to obliterate ground targets. The Crimson Scythe knew with chilling certainty that foot soldiers, even the most elite, stood no chance against such overwhelming aerial firepower, and they would have been absolutely right, had the human factor not been so utterly, spectacularly miscalculated. On the ground, chaos erupted. The alien teams, disoriented by the sudden shift from simulation to brutal reality, found themselves exposed. The Cathar, Sylvani, and Xylosian forces, along with the numerous other contingents, immediately recognized the futility of engaging the gunships with their current loadouts. Their advanced personal shields might deflect a few stray shots, but a direct fire from those heavy weapons would turn them into vapor. Instinctively, they sought the only substantial cover available, a nearby exercise bunker that had remained untouched, a spare facility whose thick walls were still the strongest defensive structure within kilometers. They poured into its reinforced entrance, a desperate, scrambling retreat, hoping reinforcements from the Grand Crucible could arrive before the bunker itself was reduced to rubble. As the last of the Sylvani scouts darted through the bunker's entrance, Commander Tavar of the Xylosian technocracy, his optical sensors still narrowing in disdain, noticed movement on the distant horizon. His internal comms crackled, broadcasting his observations to the other commanders within the bunker. "Look at those humans," he uttered, his synthesized voice laced with an almost palpable disgust. When the real fight began, they turned tail and ran like cowards, fleeing even further away from the bunker. Pathetic. His optical sensors zoomed in, tracking the 2 minuscule figures retreating into the craggy landscape. Their so-called superior weapon was clearly just for show. A symbolic team indeed, out of sheer embarrassment, and now they confirm their true nature. A few grunts of agreement and disgusted chitters echoed through the cramped bunker, the sentiment solidifying into a collective, dismissive judgment. The humans, with their archaic tools and symbolic presence, had proven themselves utterly spineless in the face of genuine danger. Outside, the Crimson Scythe gunships wasted no time. Their lead vessel, a monstrous, heavily armoured gunship designated Harbinger, opened fire, its primary plasma cannons spewing incandescent bolts that hammered against the bunker's exterior. The armour groaned, the reinforced alloy shuddered, and dust rained from the ceiling. Inside, the alien soldiers pressed themselves against the walls, their advanced sensors screaming warnings of structural integrity failure. The bunker, designed for ground defence, was never meant to withstand a prolonged assault from heavy gunships. It wouldn't hold, not long enough. A cold, dread certainty settled over them. This bunker, their desperate refuge, was about to become their collective grave. They were all about to be crushed under tons of collapsed superalloy. For a few desperate moments, every alien soldier, refusing to completely surrender, attempted to bring their specialized skills to bear against the overwhelming aerial threat. Cathar warriors, despite their heavy armor and the obvious mismatch, unleashed furious bursts from their wrist-mounted plasma cannons. Crackling bolts of incandescent energy, each capable of searing through lesser fortifications, impacted the gunship's reinforced hulls with concussive thuds, causing a brief, localized shimmer of heat, but little significant damage. Many of these shots, designed for static targets or slower ground vehicles, veered wildly as the gunships weaved through the air, missing entirely. Those that did connect barely scratched the surface, inflicting only superficial damage, a mere cosmetic blemish on the armoured behemoths. Sylvani operatives, their movements a blur of desperate grace, extended their silent energy projectors, attempting to target exposed sensor arrays and weapon ports with surgical precision. Their low-power beams, meant for infiltration and disabling smaller systems, merely flickered against the vessel's hardened optics and advanced countermeasures like fireflies against a storm. They were simply not designed for such fast-moving, heavily shielded aerial targets. Engineer K. Law of the Xylosian technocracy frantically deployed a small swarm of agile attack drones, their miniature thrusters whining as he desperately reprogrammed them for anti-air defense. But the drones, designed for ground-level skirmishes and precision strikes against static targets, were too slow, too lightly armed, and utterly incapable of posing any threat to the swiftly moving, heavily armoured gunships. Their collective efforts, however valiant and desperate, were utterly futile, a mere pinprick against an overwhelming aerial assault that barely registered on the terrorists' radar. Through the bunker's main viewing glass, a reinforced but now cracked viewport, they watched in horror as the Harbinger repositioned. Its primary weapon array began to glow, charging for a final decisive shot that would undoubtedly collapse the entire structure. Despair, thick and suffocating, filled the bunker. Commander Vrax, usually stoic, let out a low growl of resignation. Operative Lyra closed her eyes, a silent prayer forming in her mind. Commander Tavar, many limbs twitched, helpless. They began to pray to their respective deities, a desperate final plea against the inevitable. Then a sound. Not the roar of the gunship, but a sharp, distinct crack that seemed to rip the very air. It was a sound they had heard before, just minutes ago, but now it carried a different, terrifying finality. The Harbinger, moments from delivering its killing blow, lurched violently. A pinpoint hole, impossibly small, appeared on its reinforced command bridge. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then a cascade of internal explosions ripped through the vessel. Flames, brilliant and consuming, erupted from every vent and seam. The massive gunship spun out of control, a dying star falling from the sky, before slamming into the Xylosian desert in a cataclysmic fireball that momentarily turned night into day. A collective stunned gasp echoed through the bunker. Then, across the shared comms channel, clear, unhurried, unmistakably human, came Private Vance's voice. "Dude, you've embarrassed yourself twice today." There was a pause just long enough to sting. Then Corporal Carter's voice followed, measured and razor-sharp. "Next time, Commander, try trust before prayer." The aliens stared, their eyes wide, their disbelief almost tangible. Commander Tavar didn't respond, because what could he possibly say? The remaining Crimson Scythe gunships, momentarily disoriented by the sudden loss of their lead, began firing wildly, their weapons lashing out in random directions, unable to pinpoint the source of the impossible attack. But it was useless. One by one, with the same chilling precision, the crack would sound, a tiny hole would appear, and another gunship would erupt in flames, spiraling down to join the wreckage of its comrades. The alien soldiers inside watched, mesmerized, as a single human sniper and his spotter, unseen and unheard, systematically dismantled an entire squadron of heavy gunships. Only one ship remained. Larger and even more heavily armored than the others, a transport gunship that had been holding back, perhaps carrying the terrorist leader or valuable cargo. It began to ascend, attempting to escape. Just as despair threatened to creep back into the bunker, a voice, calm and unwavering, cut through their comms. It was Alex Vance. "Alien team in the bunker, this is Private Vance. We need a distraction. Draw its fire, make it commit to a target. There's a weak spot on its ventral side, but I need it stationary for a clean shot. Can you do it?" The aliens looked at each other, their faces a tableau of profound shock and dawning respect. Without hesitation, Commander Vrax, his mandibles still slightly agape, barked, "All available energy weapons. Focus fire on the transport's dorsal plating. Give them what they want." A renewed, albeit desperate, barrage of energy bolts erupted from the bunker's shattered entrance, drawing the attention of the last gunship. It hesitated, then swung its heavy cannons to bear on the bunker, its focus entirely on the perceived threat. That was all the time Vance needed. The crack echoed one final time. The massive transport gunship shuddered, a hole appearing precisely where Vance had indicated. A chain reaction of explosions followed, more contained than the others, but equally devastating. The ship listed, then plummeted, crashing into the canyon floor with a final echoing roar. Silence returned, this time absolute and profound. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and burnt metal. The impossible had been done. What their combined forces, with all their advanced technology, could not have hoped to achieve, a single human sniper and his spotter had accomplished. The Grand Crucible's observation decks were no longer filled with laughter, nor even stunned silence. Now they thrummed with something far heavier: awe. In the aftermath of the Crimson Scythe's annihilation, the simulated training exercise was officially suspended. Fleet marshals, planetary defense ministers, and sovereign military minds from across 100 species convened in the central chamber. Holograms flickered above them, gunship schematics, projectile trajectories, slow-motion impact replays, all centered on two humans who had never once raised their voices. Private Alex Maverick Vance and Corporal Ben Shadow Carter stood at attention inside a sterile debriefing hall, the same anti-materiel rifle now resting in its battered case beside them. Not polished, not cleaned, just real. A Xylosian analyst, his voice trembling with residual disbelief, finally broke the silence. 1 rifle, 6 direct shots, 6 confirmed kills, including hardened aerial targets with reinforced substructure and dynamic evasive systems. Correction, Carter said, dry as ever. 1 kill wasn't even direct, just shrapnel through the intake vent. The room blinked. A Kalari admiral leaned forward, his pale tendrils curling inwards. How did you acquire such a weapon? Vance shrugged. Standard human sniper doctrine. Sometimes an immovable object just needs an unstoppable metal moving really, really fast. It is ancient, muttered a Silvani operative. Untraceable, silent, invisible to our scanners. Exactly, Carter said. Sometimes progress blinds you. We never stopped using what worked. Commander Tavar of the Xylosian technocracy remained silent throughout the debrief, not out of spite, but reflection. His arrogance had been incinerated along with the Harbinger. Later, as the human pair prepared to board their transport back to Earth, they passed a corridor filled with alien soldiers. Cathar warriors gave solemn nods. Silvani agents lowered their heads in respect. Even Vrax, the towering beast of the hegemony, raised a closed fist in salute. You're not just infantry, he rumbled. You're artillery in a heartbeat, ghosts in daylight. Vance offered a small grin. Nah, we're just stubborn, Carter added. Not everything old is obsolete. The shuttle doors closed behind them. Somewhere, far above, military doctrines were rewritten. Simulation parameters were redefined. And across the stars, whispers spread like wildfire. Remember, 1 human with a sniper rifle is a strategic threat.